All right. All right. Great evening and good to see everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Extremely excited to be bringing this Women's History Month exclusive. We are going to be talking about Old and Whole, redefining women's well-being, redefining our joy, redefining just overall holistic wholeness, joy, happiness, all of those things, especially as women leaders, right, Dr. Q?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening. Where are you joining us from today?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Beautiful.
Your second home. Your second home.
My second home. You know what? It's so funny. So I lived in Atlanta for many years, and that's how we got connected. Went to school in Atlanta, Clark Atlanta University, and I was born in Atlanta. So Atlanta's like really the number one home that I've moved away from, but come back to often, and always, always love the ATL or the A, whatever y'all calling it these days.
Yes. Well, I didn't know you were born here, so that's cool. That makes you an Atlanta native, and I too am an Atlanta native, so that's cool.
Learning more and more.
A new fun fact.
New fun fact. That's it. That's it. So we are really excited. I'm just going to look and just make sure. It looks like okay. It looks like maybe we might need to do a little update on LinkedIn. If you all can just bear with me just a quick moment. I just want to make sure that we are live on LinkedIn. And if anybody in the chat can confirm if they see us on LinkedIn, that would be fantastic. Try creating a new stream. Let's see. I'm going to view on LinkedIn because that's where a huge part of our audience is. And I want to make sure that we are troubleshooting this. So please bear with us just one moment. And all right. So Dara, I see that you are our producers in the backstage. So I'm just going to ask Dara, does she see us? Dr. Q, do you see us on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I was on Instagram. Let me see.
All right. So thank you for joining those that can see us. We are about to get started. Today's Topia Talk is celebrating Women's History Month. I'm Naya Powell, founder of Topia and Utopia Global Wellness Retreats. We also have with us the powerful and beautiful Dr. Q Foster, Chief Empowerment Officer and CEO of Catalyst Collective. So we're still just trying to see if you can see us.
I don't
see us. That is so weird. So, and we put a lot of effort that people could see us on LinkedIn Live. So what I'm going to endeavor to do, if you all could just give us a moment.
Because we would be on your page, right, Naya?
Yeah, and there's a link. So there is a link that is for registration. I do see that link available. So we're using StreamYard. And so you should
pop right up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it should pop right up. So what I'm going to do is see if there is a way that I can just simply provide you all with. So this is interesting. I think because we did the webinar option, it's doing something different.
So when I go to the link, it says live on the link, but it doesn't show that we're on.
No.
Let me see if I click on the actual link.
So if it's not showing us, then we're going to do a quick switcheroo so we can actually make sure that we're live.
Okay. I'm good. So you do whatever you need to do on your technical end.
Okay. Let's see here. Let me hide that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pause and we're going to come back the more standard StreamYard way. That's not the webinar format. So everybody hold tight. Give us a couple minutes. Thank you for your patience. But it looks like we have 9 people watching. So for the 9 people that are watching, if you're able to put in the chat where you're watching us, are you seeing us on Facebook? Let me go to my Facebook page and see if that's what's going on.
I'm gonna see. I'm gonna go to Stephanie, a friend of mine, said she's on.
Okay, can you ask her what platform she's on?
Okay.
Is she on Facebook or is she on LinkedIn? Dara, if you can also, if you're able to hear us, see us, I'm actually gonna add you to the stage for a moment.
Oh, can you hear me?
Hi, Dara. Yes. Are you able to see? It shows that it's happening on LinkedIn, but no live videos. That means you can't see us. Okay. All right. So this is what we're going to do. So there's Jermaine is on StreamYard. So that means that these are people that came through the registration. All right. So what we're going to ask you all to do, thank you for your patience, Jermaine and Stephanie.
Through Facebook. Yeah, she just
said Facebook. Okay, that's great. But we don't want to leave out the people on LinkedIn. Right. So this is what we're going to do. On LinkedIn, there's a link to the StreamYard. Oh, there's a link to the StreamYard. Thank you, Kate. This is great.
When I went to that link, you have to register.
Yeah. So do me a favor. Go ahead and register and then tell me what happens. Because it's just your name and email. Because what I think happens is once you click the link, you put your name and email, then people can see us, is what it sounds like. Is that what's happening, Kate and Stephanie? Once you click that link, you put your name and email, then you can see us. For Kate or Stephanie, if you can hear me, if you don't mind, just sharing.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Okay.
Once you click into the link, once you click the link and put your information in.
Awesome. Okay. Good deal. Good deal. So we're going to rock and roll. Thank you, everyone. All right. So this is what goes into being bold and whole.
That's right. That's right.
Trying to maintain our sanity, right? Under stressful conditions.
Yeah.
And when you are,
I see people coming in. So good.
Yeah, I see people coming in. So this is great. So when you are a woman leader, you have stress because you have responsibilities and it goes hand in hand. So let's get ready to dive in. And so thank you all for joining. We are so excited to have you. Thank you for just bearing with us. And once again, Dara, I'll go ahead and take you off stage, but please help us monitor the chat and remove you from there. All right. So as we get ready to dive into today's topic, what I'd love for you all to share is where you're joining us from. You know, what city, what state, what country, and for our women, thank you for our men that joined too. I love that because you help support us in being whole and bold, right? So we need each other. But I'd love for you to share one thing that does, stretch you as a woman pursuing leadership or as a woman in leadership. What is one thing that stretches you in that regard? And while you all are adding that, I'm just going to go ahead and move right into our welcome and we'll dive into this rich conversation. So again, welcome. I'm Naya Powell, founder and CEO of Topia and Utopia Global Wellness Retreats. Topia is elevating health, happiness, and performance in the workplace and beyond. Really excited to have our special guest here. Dr. Do you prefer Quisa or Q or
Dr. Q? Just Dr. Q.
Okay, that's cool.
Or Q, I'm Q with you. So.
Listen, you earned that doctor, so we're gonna call you doctor.
That's right.
Thank you for breaking barriers, right? So we're gonna talk about, bold and whole, redefining women's well-being, joy, and leadership. And so I want to invite you to grab your journals. I want to invite you to grab your coffee, your tea, your dinner, and this is going to be a rich conversation, especially this Women's History Month. So we know as women, a lot of us wear, most of us wear so many hats, professionally, personally, whether we're mothers, whether we're spouses, we're daughters, for sure. And so some of us are in the sandwich generation and we're doing things in the community. Dr. Q, just hours before this, you were at a school speaking to the children. So I just want to go ahead and hear a little more from you. I think you're a delightful person. You wear so many hats. You do it with grace and you do it with joy. You do it with that beautiful smile that you have right now. And so tell us why this topic means a lot to you.
Well, first of all, Naya, thank you for having me. And thank you for the opportunity to collaborate because this is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
We were actually honestly connected, although we both went to Clark Atlanta University, we were connected through my sister.
That's it.
Because my sister did a lot of work with you. For those of you who know, my sister is also in the beauty industry. She and I did a lot of work together. And I remember her meeting you and saying, there's this cool girl that I work with that went to Clark Atlanta University. And then when we connected, we were just all connected and we just maintained that relationship. And so I think relationships are so important and being able to maintain good relationships, especially good sister relationships, because that helps you to be bold and whole. Sometimes when we don't have time to call our therapist at 2 a.m. or we can just text our peer therapist, call our girlfriends, and they can talk you off a cliff. So I just think I am a relational person, as you know, and relationships are very important to me. And so I think that is very important in being bold and whole. So I actually forgot the question. What was the question?
No, that's good. And I want to just, and I think that's the beautiful thing about, you can have questions, but it's really about being our authentic selves and allowing ourselves to flow organically in the moment. And that's something I love. And shout out to Stacy because Stacy and we worked together. That's her sister for many years. The first company I had was Spa Utopia, luxury spa services on demand. And Stacy was our, I would say, lead esthetician for many, many, many years. And we have since pivoted. So now we're bringing wellness to people through virtual platforms. But I say all the time that life is about relationships. And so we now the world is more global than ever. So you never know how you're going to reconnect or see someone again. And I think I saw you a couple years ago at homecoming. And that reignited just kind of the in-person connection because I hadn't seen you in person in a little while. And then, reached out again when I was in Atlanta and just see all the great things that you're doing in the workspace and the educational space and beyond. So being bold and whole does come a lot from our sister friends, women leaders, seeing other women doing the things that maybe we have been dreaming of or preparing for, and then seeing our sisters stepping out on faith and making it happen. That's empowering. And so the question is, bold and whole, redefining women's well-being, joy, and leadership. Why is this a topic that is near and dear to you? And I want to frame it up like this. You got your doctorate in a topic that is very aligned with today's topic.
It's amazing how, and I think when I chose my doctoral program, I did my doctorate in higher education leadership, but I specifically wanted to study women leaders, specifically in higher ed, because that's what my doctorate is in, higher ed. Female presidents who were presidents of historically Black colleges and universities, and I wanted to study the longevity. What were those things that were blocking them from having success as leaders of historically Black colleges? So the factors that affect their longevity as leaders, because during the time that I was actually studying, so many things were happening. So I decided on the topic, at the beginning of the program. And 2 years later, when I start writing, all of these things start happening.
Mm.
The president of Harvard had to step down because of the things that were going on in Israel and Gaza. We had a couple of presidents that same year to just drop dead.
Wow.
And then we had Dr. Bunny, the president at Lincoln University, who actually, unfortunately, committed suicide. So during the time that I was writing, all of these things were happening. And it's amazing how alignment. So when I think about success, I think about alignment. And alignment just happens to be my word for 2025. And so just being aligned with your purpose and your value so that you can have well-being.
That's it.
And I think that this topic is really special to me because I come from a long line of women. It's 5 girls. I have 5 sisters. So you met Stacy, but I have 3 other sisters. So it's
Wow.
5 girls. My mom raised us. She was an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
For years, she had her own beauty salon. Was an entrepreneur before entrepreneurship was even a word. So she
Or
was
was a hot thing, right?
she was a cosmetologist that worked for herself, and entrepreneurship wasn't even a thing, but she did it and made it look so easy. And so when I had an opportunity to be an entrepreneur, I realized it wasn't as easy as she made it.
No.
So really to, have a strong woman leader as a mother who
That's
was
it.
just trying to create a life for her girls, but also building a business, building a legacy,
Mm-hmm.
and taking that and just applying it to life and not even knowing how, but just really putting the pieces together. So just wanting to help other women really realize their greatness, which is one of the reasons why I founded Catalyst Collective after I finished the work, because so many women were coming to me. I mean, I get, and we're like, okay, so what's next? What do you have next for me? How can you help me get my life aligned? And
Right.
uh,
Right.
and taking it seriously because these women were very serious. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a passion of mine.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You said something in terms of what success is to you. And that's one of the things I want us to think about. And I would love to invite you all in the chat. What does success look like to you? Because I want us to redefine, I want us to reimagine, I want us to embrace success on our terms. And there's a quote by Michelle Obama that I love, and it says, "Success is only meaningful and enjoyable if it feels like your own. Success is only meaningful and enjoyable if it feels like your own." And we can unpack that. And a lot of times we are trying to march to the drum of someone else's band. And so one of the things I say often is we're divinely created with a unique and specific purpose. Our own set of shoes that are molded just for our feet, just for our DNA to make our own unique imprint. And sometimes we are just killing ourselves, literally, literally as women. As you just said, Dr. Q, you're like, what's happening? These women they're dying. One death by suicide, other, I'm sure from the level of stress, from trying to be it all and do it all. And, we are super women in a lot of ways, but we're still human beings and we're not machines. And so if we don't take time to invest in our self-care and our well-being, that is rest. That is the rest is one of the biggest things because we go and push and push and push. If we don't take time to do a body scan and take a few cleansing breaths and say, how am I feeling? Let me press pause. It's okay to press pause, to take a break, to reset, to go to the doctor, to call your therapist, call your girlfriend, your sister friend, and say, this is what's really, really going on. It's okay to take time to nourish your joy. A lot of times when I am working with women in coaching sessions or our retreats that we do, and I may say, what do you like to do for fun? Or what's a hobby? Sometimes even within the Topia team,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be surprised that a lot of women don't really have an answer. And
Mhm.
I find that to be like, wowzers. Even if I don't get a chance to have as much fun as I like, at least I know kind of what brings me joy, right? The
Right.
simple abundances and the big. And so why do you think that is? Just from you're in a lot of high level leadership spaces as well. Why do you think that is? How do we get here in terms of just not knowing how to care for ourselves?
I think that time goes by and we don't realize it a lot of times. We're doing so much and
Mhm.
we're doing so much at times, and time passes and you haven't had a mammogram. You haven't gone to the doctor. When I was doing my work, when I was doing the research and the women that I spoke with, all of the women prioritize. So, when you're doing your doctoral work, you have to do all these things. And what is the common theme? And so I
Mhm.
spoke to all of these different women presidents. And in the top three of all it's almost like they were listening to each other's sessions and they weren't, because they all had the same underlying themes. And one of the biggest things in the top three was self-care.
Wow, that's
And there were women at the end of their tenures, they had to literally care for themselves because they were sick.
great.
They had some sort of long-term ailment that they had to address.
Mhm.
There were women who didn't see that they didn't prioritize self-care at all. So, today the buzzword is self-care, but we're talking about exercise, diet, drinking water,
Yes.
just those simple things,
Yeah.
not even what we think self-care is when we think about, retreating or hiking or, going to get a massage. That's not just the little things
The
to
basics.
and drink some water.
Getting
Um,
back to the basics.
yeah, wake up and do some meditation.
Right.
Those things they were not doing. So they
Mhm.
were waking up and just jumping into the day. And I've read so many books lately where, as it relates to leadership, where we should not wake up and immediately dive into our day. We should not
Absolutely.
wake up immediately and roll over and pick up our cell phones and see what calls we missed overnight or what texts we missed overnight. And I'm guilty of that myself.
Mhm.
We should take a moment to just wake up, you know, do
Mhm.
our own little thankful gratitude,
Yeah.
for just being able to wake up,
Yes.
and take an hour to get yourself together before you jump right into the workday. And so I think that just doing some of those, I think that women are not doing those things. And so we're neglecting ourselves in that way,
Mhm.
where we're not setting boundaries for ourselves, which is very important as leaders.
Absolutely, absolutely. You said so many things that are so powerful in that. And one of the things I'd love for you kind of touched on it, but what does your morning routine look like? I think a morning routine is so essential for starting the day.
So I try to meditate in the morning. I'm trying very hard to make that a practice. So I have the Bible app on my
Yes,
phone.
yes.
And that's good and bad, because the Bible app is on your phone, you're distracted by all the other apps that are on your phone.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
have to be very intentional to go to the Bible app first.
Yes,
If
yes.
I go to Facebook first, or if I go to Instagram first, or if I go to my messages first, then it's over. So
Mhm.
I try to be intentional about going, and then I feel guilty. I've made myself feel guilty if I go to another app other than the Bible app. And so I usually try to do at least that. I
Mhm.
have a group of people where of prayer partners, where we actually do the Bible app together, and so that we hold each other accountable.
That's
So
beautiful.
if three people have gone before me and I've missed, then I'm a little behind. And so
Yeah.
that's what I try to do in the morning, is to have some really spiritual time before then I'm up. And once I'm up, then that's it. It's
Then
over.
you're going, going, going. So
Yeah.
that's good. I asked the ladies to share in the chat, what does success look like for them? And I love that they shared some really rich responses. Nicole Lee, success is peace and alignment, both personally and professionally. Couldn't have said it better.
Mm-hmm.
Dara, success for me is thriving spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I love this. What we're seeing is that as you shared and as some of the women shared in the comments, that we are redefining success. Success is not just titles. It's not just how much money we're making. It's not how big our house is. It's not the car that we drive. It's not how much jewelry we have. I didn't see that in these responses. And I know that that is success for some people.
Mm-hmm.
But those things don't keep your heart healthy. They don't keep your spirit renewed. They don't bring you joy truly when you're at home and it's just you and those things. Those things are not doing any of those things for you. So when we think about well-being, we want to be thinking about it holistically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, relationally, and professionally, right? And I dare say even financially. But the finance and the title doesn't make us. The finances will help us have more freedom of time. So we're able to operate more fully in our purpose, right? And not be so stretched by trying to just, make ends meet. And so when we think about that, I want us to be thinking about how are we operating more in alignment with our purpose, our passion. That's a part of our well-being. Like you said, drinking the water. I love to share my morning routine. I talk about my morning routine a lot in my book here, 30 Days to Utopia Living. This has daily coaching questions, and there's also a journal that looks just like this. And so my morning routine is similar. I start before I turn on any news, look at any news, look at social media. It's first giving thanks to God for my life, for breath in my body, for the life that I do have. Even if it's not what I would consider perfect all the time, it's my life. It's perfect because it's my life, right? And so I always draw some nuggets of inspiration, wisdom, strength, resilience, and learn as we're going through this thing called life. It is listening to some music that's going to inspire my spirit. It is taking time to gratitude journal, and it's also speaking declaration. So I want you all to think about, as you talk about what success is for you, I want to challenge you to write in your journals, define that even more. When you think about SMART goals, define it a little bit more. What does that mean a little bit more? And then start speaking that over your life in the mornings, because our words carry weight and power. So when we think about defining success beyond traditional metrics, and we think about integration of well-being, what are some of the other ways, Dr. Q, that you believe that we can focus on elevating our joy, elevating our happiness, elevating our well-being in some of these other ways? What does that look like to you?
So I think one thing we have to do is be very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about holistically being whole and being well, and we have to really set boundaries. And this is one thing that I've had to work on in 2025. That no is a complete sentence. I
Mm-hmm.
know that, as women, we say yes, yes, yes. I mean, I was just telling you the story just before the call. I love the kids. But I said yes really quick to doing the career day. And do I regret doing it? No, I don't.
Yeah.
But sometimes your schedule may not allow you to do everything. And you have to sometimes set boundaries and be okay with setting boundaries. Be okay with saying no. Be okay with having time to yourself. If you need to, did I lose you? Did I lose you, Naya? Do you all see Naya? I'm here, but I'm not sure if Naya's here. So I'm going to keep talking.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, I was like, oh my God, where did she go? I'm like, did I lose you? I was like, I'm gonna keep talking.
Yes.
She's gonna come back.
You handled it like a pro.
Yes. So yes, no, and no is a complete sentence. So setting boundaries, I think, is so important. We don't set enough boundaries, And actually, about 3 years ago, and I'll look it up and type it in the chat. One of my girlfriends actually read a book called Boundaries, and she gave it to me, and I started reading the book, and I need to probably go back to it because I think that that is one of the most important things as leaders, as women, as moms, as aunties, as sisters. We are, and if you're a family manager, forget it. Then all your boundaries go out the door because everybody is calling you. So we have to be very intentional. So prioritizing time for rest, as you said, prioritizing time for your hobbies. And if you don't know what your hobbies are, ladies, let's figure it out. Because I always say, what do you love to do that you would do and not get paid for it? That's where you can start figuring out what it is that you really love. What do you really like to do? And so that's one of the things. The other thing I would say is prioritizing your mental health. Especially during this time where we are living in this crazy political climate. I was with a girlfriend the other day, a couple of days ago. We went to dinner, and she was talking about how she is actually losing sleep over what's going on, how everything that's going on in this political. So I'm sure a lot of people are feeling like that. Now, for me, I took that whole 92% very seriously, maybe more serious than I should have. So I have checked out, and I know that's not good, but I had to kind of check out for my own mental capacity. I don't watch the news. I do very little reading of what's going on. I give me the cliff notes. I'll just take all the snippets on social media, but really engulfing myself, I'm not doing that. So we have to prioritize our health. If that means seeking therapy, if that's for you, do it. Don't be ashamed to do it. Mentorship and coaching. That's what Naya and I are here for. I mean, mentorship, coaching. I don't know what I wouldn't do without the peer mentor group in my circle. So we mentor each other. But mentoring, I'll tell you, when I was interviewing the ladies, the leaders that I interviewed for my dissertation, mentorship and executive coaching was number one. That was the number one thing that they stated helped them with longevity in their roles as leaders. And so I thought that was shocking because there were times I felt like coaching was a little oversaturated. But I feel like the leaders were saying for as a leader, you need mentor, you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need an advocate who can help you get through from one point to the next. So it really changed my whole perception on the coaching space. And so those are some of the things that we're looking about integrating and prioritizing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so rich. I will say that some of the coaching that I've done for different corporations has been around in the executive coaching space for contributions of leaders and how you move from one stage to the next and to get to what's considered enterprise level leadership, where it is you're seen as a thought leader in your industry. You're maybe at that VP level and above. Those spaces are few and far between. But if you haven't had someone to invite you into those closed, intimate rooms and spaces and circles, you will not know how to show up there. And so mentorship, having advisors, having sponsors, all of these things, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. That's a whole 4-part series that we do with Topia under our Institute of Mindful Leadership. But if you don't really have someone to guide you through that, you're not going to be able to compete. And there are so many professionals that do have organizations or budgets that are investing in terms of executive coaching. And so think about if you don't have that, and if you're not investing in it in yourself or have an organization that's investing in it for you, and it can be costly, then the playing field is not very even. And so one of the ways that you can navigate that a little bit is like you said, Dr. Q, is identifying mentors. And I know that this is a conversation that's been coming up a lot. I feel like in this Women's History Month and some of the events that I've been able to attend, I'm sure yourself as well, even with my team, even with my team that are more junior in their career, we talk about this. And one of the things I want to say is everybody you ask to be a mentor may not say yes because they already probably have a lot on their plate. But what I have found is to really appreciate the mentoring moments that you might be able to really get from a workshop, a networking event, a webinar, and then following up with that person and letting them know, introducing yourself, how much you appreciated, their remarks and how you're inspired by them, and doing just kind of a very slow development of the relationship. If they're in person, maybe you ask them for lunch or coffee or something like
You
that.
took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nurture the relationship before diving headfirst and asking someone that doesn't know you yet if they will mentor you, right? So just take the little moments and the nuggets, and sometimes it's only going to be that, but you can get a lot if you kind of are looking at all of these different people that you admire and paying attention to what they're sharing. You can really elevate yourself by that.
And I totally agree with that. Actually, I was going to touch and agree with you about that by saying, look, for me, if you ask to get on my calendar and take me to lunch, have lunch, coffee, lunch, dinner,
Yeah.
you have a better chance of getting my attention and some of my time. And then that relationship automatically kind of kicks in. And so I do that in my own. I'm always at somebody's lunch, dinner, or coffee. Right? I mean,
Listen, that's how we got here today.
Right. My calendar is always booked up. But I think that is the best way to connect because people like food, people have to eat.
Yeah.
And I invest in my mentorship. And so if I ask you to lunch, it's going to be mutually beneficial, but you're going to share more because we're breaking bread. And it's actually better that way because people are more relaxed and then they will give a much more information. And sometimes they'll tell you things about you that changes how you perceive your own self. And it's always in a great way. So I totally agree with taking time. And that is one of the things that as we move into the next section, when you talk about prioritizing joy and fulfillment, being very intentional and non-negotiable with your time, but allotting time. If you know that you want to mentor, if you want to sponsor, if you want to connect with someone, make that an actual calendar invite. Like that, lock that time out on your calendar, and then that's time that's an investment back into yourself. So if you're taking somebody out to lunch, it's an investment back into you because it's a mutually beneficial engagement.
Yes, it's a reciprocal, and it should be. It should be. I want us to think about that too. I feel that we really need to be more intentional than ever before. Not to say that we haven't been, but more than ever before. With a lot of things that we're seeing happening in the world, a lot of things that are being cut, a lot of opportunities that are being impacted, to just be collective. And if you see someone that is working hard and doing quality work, not just seeking mentorship, but I think it's up to those of us that have moved into higher levels of leadership in our roles to even look at how we can pour into and invest in those that deserve these opportunities too. And so I think it's a both and, but relationships should be balanced. It shouldn't be just you're taking, even if you're going to go back to the more junior person and you're looking to learn, but also figure out ways that you can also give back and invest. And that person's going to be more invested in you, like Dr. Q just said, right? And it could be sharing an article. It could be remembering them during the holidays. It could be wishing them a happy birthday, a Merry Christmas. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've had kind of these very one-way relationships where it's kind of sad to see that everybody knows it's Christmas, You don't even have to send me a gift, but you could at least say Merry Christmas.
Right.
You could at least send a little emoji. You could at least say
Right.
information on social media. But once people start to see it's only one way directionally, they may start to pull back. And so I just wanted to touch on that. But I also want to move into the joy and fulfillment and how
Mhm.
women can prioritize that in our daily routines. And I'm going to give you a real live example of today. You all, this week has been so packed. I have work being done on my home, just a lot of things in terms of deadlines, a lot of moving parts, a very stressful week, if I'm just being really transparent. But I said, you know what? Naya, you owe it to yourself. We have to invest in ourselves to see the best of ourselves. So, because I have a routine, I said, you know what? I'm getting in my walk. It may not be as long of a walk as I would like, but I got in my walk because I know that my mind, spirit, and body needs the fresh air. I know I need it to de stress. I also like to do my work when I don't have formal meetings at a coffee shop because that just boost my mood. I like to sit in front of a window. So I did some of my work there a little bit, and it was just maybe an hour and a half, but I needed that. I made sure that I said my declarations. It was 2 hours after I woke up, but that's okay. I said it. I wrote in my journal. Transparently, I missed yesterday because it's been that kind of week. I said, I'm not going to miss today. So sometimes we are in seasons. Sometimes we are in a stretch season. It's a week, it's a month, and we're not as engaged in our normal routine. But we have to decide that, you know what, tomorrow I'm getting back on it.
Mhm.
If I
Mhm.
can give myself an hour for my routine, I can set my timer for 5 minutes and I can give myself 5 minutes to write in my journal. I can give myself 10 minutes to do a walk and talk. Take one of those calls that you have to make and do it in your neighborhood, getting your walk in. These are different things. But I also want to ask you, ladies, because I think this is so important, and please share in the chat. Maybe you have to go to your inner child. Maybe you have to go to what you loved to do when you were younger and you didn't have all these responsibilities. What do you love to do? What are your simple pleasures? Is it reading a book? Is it buying a fashion magazine? Is it going for a walk in your neighborhood? Is it swimming? Somebody asked me this recently. What is self-care? And they asked me, what is self-care, or how would I actually invest in my self-care if I had $1,500? Then they said, what if it's 500? What if it's 100? And what if it's zero? And that was a powerful question because at zero, I was able to say all the things I just told you all.
Mhm. Mhm.
Lighting my candles, I didn't mention that, soaking in the tub, going for a walk, writing in my gratitude journal, those are free.
That's right. That's right. And I would even take that a step further, Naya. I would say to the ladies, identify one thing, because sometimes we have all these things that we want to do and say that we're going to do every day, but identify one thing that brings you joy and makes you
Yes.
happy.
Yes.
And then do that, commit to just doing that one thing. Whatever
Mhm.
that is. It could be reading a book a month. It could be walking, developing a walking routine. It could be writing in your journal. But do one thing. And if you concentrate on doing one thing, they said that if you do a thing 21 days consistently, then
So,
it becomes a habit.
yeah.
It becomes a habit. And so if you do one thing 21 days consistently, then it will become a habit. So if you write in your journal every day for 21 days, then you will find yourself doing that. And so I challenge you that could be your daily non-negotiable. That one thing that you're going to do to make sure that you bring yourself joy is for you.
Mhm. Absolutely. I love that. Danette shared in the chat reading books,
And that, yeah.
traveling. I think you're like I don't know, my sister twin, hanging out with friends, long hot baths. We're all like on the same exact, I could go all day. Those are all the things that I also love. So Didn't we probably need to go have coffee.
Right, right, right. Then that is in California. That's my little sister in California.
Okay. Well, when I'm in California or you're in we
Yes.
just come on one of our retreats. And like you said, Dr. We can't go on a retreat every day. So we got to figure out these things, right? And
That's
even
right. That's right.
Kate also shared, I love to create. I make sure I always have a creative project that I'm working on and use that as a break from the stress obligations. That is so good, Kate. And Kate is on the team. And so Kate also crochets. And so I know a lot of women are getting into crocheting, even my niece. And so they say it's just a wonderful stress reliever. And it's something that's acceptable even in work meetings. People even crochet in work meetings. So I do.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Michelle Obama talked about that in her book, The Light We Carry, how she picked it up because of her stress and anxiety. And I think, I want us as women to give ourselves grace. I really want us to give ourselves grace and to know that it's okay to not always be okay. I think that's so important to not always have to be the strong one, because sometimes
Right.
those of us that are in any sort of leadership role, we are the go-to person and everybody's coming to us and coming to us and coming to us. But you can't pour from an empty cup. And
You
sometimes
can
opposites. And it's okay, as you said, Dr. Q, to set your boundaries. And sometimes it's, you know what, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'll have to revisit this tomorrow. Or thank you so much for inviting me. I would love to be there, but I'm not going to be able to make it this time.
And the other thing I'll add to that, Naya, is check on your strong friends.
Yes.
We are all leaders. We are all strong. We all have all of these responsibilities that we carry. And sometimes we don't show our emotions, and we'll talk. I'm getting ahead of myself with where we are in the portion of the program, but we have to check on our strong friends. I had a friend recently, a male friend. I told him a couple of weeks ago that I was having a bad day, maybe the day before. And he said, well, you didn't say anything. And I said, but you didn't ask. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying?
mm.
So he said, but you look fine. I said, but I was still having a bad day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you have to, I think that we have to be very intentional about checking on our strong friends, because we think, because we hold it all together, we make life look great, but everybody has a bad day. And so I think we have to, as leaders, we have bad days too, and we go into the office, in my car is my safe place. So
Mm,
I'll get into the car and I'll scream, or I'll cry, or I'll
mhm.
turn the music up really loud, or I'll shout because there's a gospel song on and it just hit me a different way. But that's what I do in my car because I'm usually in there by myself.
Yeah.
But we do have to be human and
Mhm.
be okay with not being okay.
Mhm. Mhm. And I like that, checking on our strong friends. And, sometimes we are a group of friends that are strong friends with each other, and or sometimes not, but I think the checking in, and I've had people say, how are you really doing? And
Mhm.
that's a great way.
Mhm.
How are you doing?
Right.
Then we
Right.
know that that's the time to like get out of the almost robotic responses.
Right.
And okay, they're asking me how I'm really doing. And I would say challenge ourselves with discernment, to be honest. You know,
Mhm.
based on the relationship, based on how well you know the person, is how deep you will go. But you can still be honest either way, and you can be honest at a high level. And then if you feel that you can trust that person, if you're going through something that's very, very deep, and think about who those people are. So I even want to encourage you, women that are listening to this, write down the name. If it's one person that you can authentically and honestly be vulnerable with,
Mhm.
things are really not going well. And you can't do that with just everybody, and life will show you that. So if you know that you can't do that with friend B or C or relative D or E, just to protect your own well being, your own heart, your own emotional well being, then maybe you don't overly share with the people that don't know how to handle that level of sharing. But most of us have a few people in our lives that we can really share with and be mindful of that, right? And also that therapist, like you said, but maybe they're not available at 2 o'clock in the
That's
morning.
right. That's right.
So we need a little both and, right? But I have some few more shares that I wanted to share here. So love this. Morgan said, I'll be honest, I love to dance it out sometimes. Just turn on my speaker and let the music flow. Dancing is wonderful. It releases all those happy hormones. So even if you can't dance good, put your music on and dance it out. Dancing it out is wonderful. So that's really good. And then Stephanie said, being around friends, it charges my battery. I am a extrovert. I am a social being. I think we all are, even our introverts, because we were never created to be an island to ourselves. But I know that I recharge by being around my friends. And so, as hard as I work, I still have to find time on the weekends to spend some time with friends, a brunch, a lunch, a dinner, or what have you. All those things. So, let's get to the next question. In terms of when we think about leadership styles. And one that you said something, Dr. Q, you said something earlier. You said, if you're a family manager, and you know, I'm not used to hearing that term, but I love that term. I love that term. So if you're a family manager, and that can mean a lot of different things.
Yes, it can.
We're CEOs of our households and our lives. So even if you don't have a leadership title, we're all leading our lives.
That's right.
In many ways, and sometimes leading the lives of many people. So leadership styles. What unique leadership styles are you starting to notice emerging in these current times among women today? And how are they differing from traditional leadership styles?
Number one on the list is emotional intelligence. And so much so, I am intentionally going deeper with emotional intelligence. So right now I'm reading the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And I'm actually reading it as a part of a leadership institute that I'm in. But I've always been interested in emotional intelligence. Another common theme that emerged out of my research among women leaders, because we are women and we are emotional, and it's just who we are, and so we have to look at ways where we can psychologically maneuver, in whether we're in the workplace, whether we are in spaces with other women, just learning, being very intentional about controlling our emotions. So I'm gonna tell a quick story. So when I was fresh out of Clark, Atlanta, I took my first job with the Girl Scouts. I worked at the Girl Scouts in Orlando for Citrus Girl Scout Council in Orlando. And I was in a leadership role. I didn't know, it was a small council. It was a small council, one of their offices, but I think we had like 20,000 Girl Scouts that we managed.
Wow.
And at that time I was in PR. Anyway, I had this leader, the executive director. She was hard. I mean, had just graduated from college. My undergrad was in PR, so all I did was write. And the professors would mark up that was back in the day when the professors would mark up your writing with red. Well, during this time, I came out in 95, so computers were just emerging. So we still were doing a lot of things with paper, manually.
Yeah.
And I had to do this monthly newsletter, and it had to go through a manual approval process. And she would mock up my newsletter with all of this red writing. She would call me to her office, make me cry, send me back to my office. So as time went on, I would say to myself, when I go to this person's office, I can call her name. God rest her soul. She's no longer with us. Her name is Jan. And Years later, I reconnected with her, and I actually told her, I am the leader and the woman I am today because of you. And if
Mm-hmm.
I tell you she made me thick.
Yeah.
Oh, because I would go into her, before I would go into her office, I would say, she's not going to make me cry.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Mm-hmm.
walk in her office. She would literally curse me out
Really? Really?
using real curse
Real
words.
curse words. And this is with the Girl Scouts. My
Yes,
God.
she would use real curse words, and I would hold it together.
Mm.
And the moment I stepped out of that office, I would just cry. I mean, I would just run to my office and cry, 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 cry. And this went on for some time until eventually I would be able to leave out of her office and not cry anymore. That was torture. But my point is, we have to learn how to manage, because sometimes I remember recently telling a manager, a male manager, do not mistake these tears for weakness. I'm just really mad right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put extra pressure on ourselves because of emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the Black woman, mean girl syndrome or whatever they call it. But we do have emotional intelligence is that thing that's coming up. It's that leadership style that as a leader, we have to really figure out how we're going to over
Navigate.
navigate through it. That's the word I'm looking
Absolutely.
for.
Absolutely.
Because it could make and break. It could make or break us. It
It,
could
it,
definitely
it
make or
does.
break.
It breaks a lot, I think, more than it makes.
Mhm.
And so I think that's just a really, thank you for sharing like that real honest, real experience. Stephanie said that's a little toxic. It's toxic. But the reality is that most of us have had to endure many experiences that have been extremely toxic. And I know I've had beyond my fair share. And I remember my very first job out of college. I was so excited to work for this major brokerage firm. Um, and I remember being the only one on my team not invited to a mutual funds dinner and feeling so excluded. I remember literally going in the bathroom and crying my eyes out. And I don't think I've ever publicly shared this story. My other fellow, we're all kind of in this, I would say, rotational program, professional rotational program. So it was me and two other young women, and my team was very small. It was mutual funds marketing, and it's probably seven of us, and three of us were in a right out of college rotational program, and the other young ladies were like, "I can't believe that you weren't invited. This is so horrible." So other people saw how horrible this was, and it's funny because now that I think about it, sometimes you don't remember all the things that shape you, right? But this is probably what has contributed to me being a very inclusive person, that I don't like for people to feel left out, because it feels horrible to feel left out, and for people to see this and notice it, it's really and it can feel shameful too. So, long story short, I remember calling my parents and crying and telling them about this and how horrible it was. And I remember my mother saying, to be a leader, you have to learn how to work with difficult personalities. And so, as you talk about emotional intelligence, there's so many things that go into that. And as a leader, when we use this word leader, again, I don't want you all to think about, I was only 21 years old, y'all.
I
So
was 25. I was
and I
25.
was not prepared for this. Nobody taught me this in school. But my mom still said to me, as a leader, you will have to learn how to deal with difficult people. And
Yeah.
my mom, shout out to her, I saw her empowering women. I saw her working with women. This was back in the day. She's a first Black woman to become a national sales director in Mary Kay Cosmetics for the state of Virginia. And I think even though my mom's been retired for nearly 15 years, she still holds that title, which is pretty amazing.
Wow.
But
Wow.
this was back in the day where my mom would meet women in the grocery store and talk to them about skincare and invite them to our house She just met in the grocery store. Every Wednesday, we would clean up the house and bake a chocolate cake, and my mom would have her meeting. So I saw her empowering women, training women, but I also saw the claws come out sometimes. And so I saw all these things. And so I actually saw my mom having to navigate these different personalities, all of these different things. And I also learned a lot about leadership from my dad. But I say all of that to say, when we think about emotional intelligence, and I think about some of the work I did at Korn Ferry in the certification around emotional intelligence and leadership, it is key. It is intelligence is really considered, that EQ is now considered more important than the IQ in terms
Absolutely.
to navigate professional environments and actually be promoted to leadership. You can't wear your emotions on your sleeve. You can't have a knee-jerk reaction to everything. We do need to learn how to be responsive and mindful and not reactionary, taking those cleansing breaths, going for a walk, taking a step out, giving somebody a call, writing out. There's a lot of different techniques that we can use to help cultivate our mindful leadership. And that's why I call it mindful leadership. But I say there's a lot that comes at us in the world and in the workplace. And some leaders are not very nice. And we came up in an era where there wasn't as much as you could really do about it. I don't know if there still is. There's still toxic work environments. So if you want to stay on the payroll, sometimes you just got to deal with some stuff, quite honestly.
Right. But I don't want to lose two other areas that when we talk about emerging leadership styles, I didn't want to lose these two. Was
Right.
Collaborative leadership is a big
Yes.
one too, because I am finding, and this is refreshing, that people are working, especially women, and you see it right here in this whole collaborative leadership. If you win, I win, we all win, and looking at ways where we can work together, because together we go further, you know. And so I think that that's another leadership style that's really emerging now, is collaborative leadership. And then the last one is leading with authenticity and vulnerability.
Absolutely.
So moving from this whole, I have all the power, it's all about me. And women lead differently than men. And I love men, and I actually prefer a male leader, a male boss. I don't know why, I just do well with male bosses. But women leaders are, I mean, what would these companies do without the women leaders? I mean, we hold it all together. So, but we are leading more with authenticity. We're being more honest about this when we have the seat at the table. We're making our voices heard. Look, I'll use this example. Michelle Obama not showing up for Donald Trump's inauguration spoke volumes. She wasn't even there. She didn't even say anything. All she did was decide to sit it out. But that silent move was a leadership
It was
move.
a statement.
It was a statement, and everybody paid attention, men and women. So there are things that we can do and she was being authentic. I don't want to show up. I don't want to. I don't want to be there. Let's just leave it there. I'm not going to be there, and that's it. And so that's being very authentic and true to yourself. And so I think more women, more leaders are leading with authenticity, and they're leading with vulnerability.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we're approaching time. We had a few extra minutes of technical challenge. So we're going to get ready to wrap it up. But I think that collaborative leadership is what we are seeing. I am a big fan of collaborative leadership. It allows, like you said, things like this coming together, bringing our strengths and really complementing one another. It's not about competing. It's about complementing. And we can't do this thing alone. So, let's shift into a space of how do we go further together. You can go fast alone, but you can go further together, right? And so two leaders that I think of that are now, New York Times bestselling authors that talk about this authenticity as a leader, Brene Brown, that talks about, that dare to be vulnerable, right? Dare to lead and vulnerability. And Mel Robbins, if you haven't read Let Them, that is a powerful book. It's liberating. And these are some of the books that we pull from in our coaching and retreats that we do with Utopia Living retreats. in our professional development series. But I love what Mel talks about. People are always going to have something to say. People are always going to have a critique or criticism. And her remedy to that is let them. And so sometimes we're doing so much as women because we're trying to, prove ourselves. We're trying to make sure we fit in. We don't want somebody to say something about us. But lean into your authentic self, show up as your best self, bring light and value into every space you enter, but do that in a way that is authentically you. And if you have boundaries and you have to say no when people don't like it, let them.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
That's it.
That's it.
So empowerment and community. We're going to close out with this part. How can we just talked about it, but any other ways that we can support each other in terms of women in community, in our journey towards a more integrated and fulfilling life? What does that look like to you?
So I really think it is community. I mean, that's the beginning and the end. We have, Atlanta is a very different place if you live here. And what I tell new people who are moving to Atlanta is find your tribe. Find your community, because your community may differ from my community, because your personality might be different than mine. I'm an extreme extrovert. If you're an extreme introvert, you may not want to be a part of my community because they're loud and they're talking. So find your tribe, find your community, and then work, like use it, leverage it. We don't leverage each other like we should. We don't leverage our relationships. We don't leverage our friendships, and not in a way where it's a give, 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 take, 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 but really using your community to make you whole, to get you to the point where you want to be. That's why all of these communities are popping up, and women are getting in them because there's a need. And there's a need for community. So I say that if you can find a community that resonates with you, I'm creating a community, Catalyst Collective. Naya has a community with Topia Wellness. Connect, and then all of the communities need to connect. Because there is something powerful when we all come together, because my strength and your strength may differ, and we can all benefit from each other's superpowers.
That's it. That's it. And this is an example of that. So, thank you for saying yes. This is an example of that. We both do coaching work. We both do a lot of work around empowering women. And so these are two powerful communities coming together to collaborate. And we're going to be doing even more things together in the near future. This is what it looks like. So as you think about the women that you're in relationship with, when you think about the women you're doing life with, whether you just met them at a networking event or they're people that you're interacting with all the time, I want to encourage us to be thinking about how can we collaborate? How can we build and foster community? How can we do events together? How can we invite each other to be speakers on each other's platforms? Whatever that looks like to better amplify the great work that we're doing, the great ways that we are contributing to the world. That's how we as women empower other women. And I always say, if not us, then who? Right? So we should be our biggest cheerleaders and our biggest champions. So as we get ready to close out, how can people follow you? How can they find you? Dr.
Well, you can. So I am, and I'll drop my links in the chat. But you can follow me on Instagram at I am Dr. Q Foster, DRQUE Foster, FOSTER. And then I'm on LinkedIn as Quisa Foster. And keep your eyes open. I will be launching the brand Catalyst Collective in the next couple of weeks. So I'm very excited about launching the brand, launching the community, having our next event in June. So just keep your eyes and ears open, and Naya and I will connect and continue to collaborate.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, yay.
I know, yay, Lala. That's what I call her, Lala.
So I will share as we get ready to close out. If you are interested in joining Utopia Global Wellness Retreats for our women's leadership and wellness spa and wellness experiences. We have an upcoming retreat to Bali, Indonesia, and it's going to be epic and amazing, ladies. 3 spa treatments, 5-star hotels. Listen, we need to get away from the stress so we can pour into our self-care. I say get away to go up. We also give back. There's a social impact component. And we, start our mornings mindfully, journaling, sharing, connecting with wellness, and also getting out and experiencing the country a bit. So I put the link there, utopialivingretreats.com. We only have 2 spaces left for Bali. If you do sign up this month, Women's History Month, I will make sure that you have a promo code for $200 off your pricing plan. And then we also have our first ever co-ed retreat in Ghana in November. And so that's going to be luxury wellness meets culture and impact. It's going to be phenomenal. Couples, singles, friends, family, all are welcome. And so I will also drop in the comments, just kind of our Topia well-being link. And for that, currently offering a 50% off memberships and subscriptions. So just want to make sure I'm sharing the love. And on Topia Wellbeing's platform, you have access to over 820 classes live and on demand, from breath work to mindfulness to mental health coaching, even with a licensed therapist, movement, and beyond. So would love to stay connected. And thank you so much. Would love for you all to share some of your biggest takeaways from today's session as we get ready to close out. And you can also follow me on LinkedIn at Naya Powell or Instagram at Utopia Living with Naya. So feel free to put your biggest takeaways in the chat from today's session. And thank you all for just how much you were engaged. It was such a rich conversation. Yes, thank you, Dr. Q. So lovely. Look for more collaborations from us together. And in closing, I'm going to close this out with one of my favorite quotes. And actually, Dr. Q, you said something earlier that made me think about it. And I think it was about 21 days we form a habit. So this is actually right out of our 30 Days to Utopia Living journal. There are quotes in here. So this one says, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. And watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny, by Lao Tzu. So thank you all.
That's one of my favorite quotes. I love that.
There's so much synergy here.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite quotes. Well, thank you, Naya, for having me. Thank you. I mean, this is great. Please look for us. We are going to be collaborating more. We are going to do some great things together. And we would love to bring your communities into our community. I know that Danette has an awesome community out in California, doing Healthy Heart Nation, which is a community, making communities whole and healthy, holistically.
Wow.
And so she's doing some great work across the country, but specifically she's in that region. So she's doing some great work. So we're all just out here trying to make the world a better place, doing our little piece.
That's it.
In the midst of the chaos. And I think that makes a difference.
It does. And there is a lot of chaos going on. And so give yourself grace, unplug a little bit from the news. I try to unplug, but plug in enough to be informed, but not too much. I can feel it in my body when I've had enough. So just give yourself grace, but most importantly, make sure you're getting your rest.
Yes.
Rest is so important for your health, for your stress levels, to combat all of the inflammation in the body that comes from cortisol that's pumping. I'll just say this really quickly. Just watched something earlier today that these high stress levels are causing women to go into perimenopause prematurely. It's causing our bodies to be inflamed, which makes us more prone to sickness. 80 to 90% of death and disease is caused by stress. So if we are not getting our rest, our body can't fight off all of these things. So allow yourself to sleep in when you need to. It's going to be there tomorrow, but you want to be there tomorrow, more importantly.
That's right.
That's
That's
it.
right.
That's it. All
Yeah.
right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you.
Have a great evening. All right.
You
Take
have a
care.
great evening. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.